Now let's understand the user experience from another example point of view. Okay, earlier what we were doing was we were trying to compare or basically place ourselves in the user foot and the user experience designer foot, and then used to see like what's happening at the both ends, right? So now let's take the example of one real use case and try to understand like what is experience and what impacts the experience. So whenever I talk about an example, I always take this example of this restaurant because it's very easy to understand this. Okay, so now let's see. So let's remember your last visit to your to any of the restaurants. Okay, start thinking, start finding the answers of these questions. Like, what is the reason or the occasion of the visit? What was the first impression as you walked in? How was the ambience of the restaurant? How was the menu? Did food come quickly or how did it taste? Okay, what was the taste of that? How was the customer service? How easy was it to make payment? Just start thinking about it and also start remembering the experience that you got from that visit, whether it was good, whether you liked the food, whether the customer service was nice, whether they were able to meet your needs, and so on. So basically, how easy was it for you to make the payment, how crowded it was, how was your experience, and so on. So here, like if we talk about like what is the reason, it could be like family function. So that means like you were happy when you walked in, right? And as you walked in, you might have seen a very good lighting, very quiet place, attendants, they welcomed you properly. So what are the first expressions? So you need to think about those things, and also think about when you started like ordering, how was the menu, were you able to understand the menu or not, and how much time did it take for the food to arrive, and when you started eating the food, how was the food, whether it was like tasty, not tasty, and also in case you had custom requests, whether that request was fulfilled, and at the end, like when you made the payment, how easy was it for you to make the payment, and so on. So once you were there, once you started using the services, once you tasted the food, what is the feeling that you got? Whether you were happy, like whether you were not happy with the service or the food was not tasty. So basically, these small things when you visited the restaurant, that makes the experience. So if the food was good, you liked the people there, you liked the ambience, and it was easy for you to order, it was easy for you to like understand the menu and what was there, like the pricing and so on. And so the total combination of like whatever happened in that restaurant, okay, so that makes up the experience. So if everything was good and at the end like you came out happy, then that means like the level of satisfaction or the experience that you had in that restaurant was good, and that means the restaurant was able to give the right experience to the user. Now in some case, like if the experience was not good, if the attendants were not nice, they were not polite, then what will happen? The experience will be bad. Okay, and if the experience was bad, then what will happen is that customer will never visit this restaurant, and also he will not recommend the services of this restaurant to any other people. So in order to be successful as a product designer and as a service provider, you always need to give the right services and the right experience to the users. Okay, so understanding the importance of the experience and what are the different things that you are supposed to do or you should be doing to enhance the feeling, enhance the engagement, and enhance the experience of the end user. Okay, so you need to understand that, because as a UX designer, you will not only be working on the digital product, physical product, but also on these kind of processes wherein you will be responsible for improving the service and also like increasing the customer's satisfaction. Okay, so understand this and remember that the end result or the end goal of any product is the satisfaction. Basically, you are the one who will be responsible for satisfying the end users. So understanding that is important, and how we'll do that or how we generally do that, so that's a different thing. We'll be talking those things in the next sessions. Okay, now in the restaurant, what happened? Let's see that. So there are different entities or different components of the experience. So one is the user who actually uses the product. Okay, in this case, who's the user? You were the user. You went there for eating, dining, or like whatever, but you were the end user. Now, who is the business here? Restaurant was the business. Okay, and restaurant was there offering them the right food, and user was there to avail that service or like have the food. Now, like what was the product here? The food was the product. Okay, now if the food was served properly and it tasted good, then the product is said to be like offering the right experience. And if the product was not served good or like in the right way, and also if the food didn't taste well, then the product is said to be like poorly presented and with poor experience, and because of that, what will happen is the experience will fall. Okay, and how the food was served, represents the visual design in user experience process, and whether like it was tasty and whether they were easily able to eat it, chew it properly, and so on. So that was the usability. Okay, so when working in a UX process, so we consider these things because these are these different components of that process. So user, business, design, that is the presentation layer, what is the actual product that you're working on, and whether that product is usable and usable or not. Okay, so understand this. So this combined experience is user experience. Okay, so this is another task if you can work on this. So this is basically think of few examples of product services that you recently bought, used, and the process you followed or to buy the same, and list down what you liked and did not like. It could be any product, okay, or any household product or any digital product. So what are the process that you followed? How did you research? How did you research for that product? And did you took suggestion or feedback from colleagues, from other people? And also, once you bought it, how was your experience? Did you like that product? How long did you use that product? And if there was some problem or few features that you didn't like, how would you like to change that? What would be the different feature that you would improve? Okay, so just try to think of this. So you can even write that in a document and share that with me. I can discuss that with you in the next class. So start thinking from the design point of view. Start reviewing different products, be it physical product or even the digital product, and see like what's right in that, what's not right, and start making comparison. Because once you start doing this, once you'll start evaluating different products, you'll start understanding what is right and what is wrong, and that will help you evolve as a designer. So till now, what we were talking about was the user experience. But what actually is user experience? So user experience is the process of creating user interactions with what? With devices or systems. So basically what happens is UX designer, what he does is he creates certain system. So now since here we are working for digital products or on digital products, we'll be creating digital systems. Okay, so it could be like a mobile app, it could be like a web application or mobile applications for different channels and mediums. Okay, so or in this user experience process, we as a UX designer, we create different products and services, and the objective of that product is to provide good, positive, engaging, and productive experience to the users. Okay, now you created the product, the user comes and uses that product. The objective of this UX designer is to create a positive experience. So the product should offer good experience to the end users. So that is what you actually plan, or what you actually try when you follow this UX process or work as a UX designer. Okay, so if simply put, UX designer deals with people. So user experience, so user is people, right? So basically here what we do is like in this process, we deal with people. And but what are people doing here? They basically use your product, the product that you create as a UX designer. So they basically come, they buy the product or buy the services, and then they use that service and the product. Okay, and what happens as the result of that is, once they use the product and the services, they get some kind of experience. Okay, so the objective is to offer them right experience and good experience, so providing engaging and fruitful experience to the users. Okay, and we follow a lot of these processes wherein like we do the research, we try to understand what they want and then work accordingly for their need, trying to fulfill their need, try to talk to them, take their feedback, improving the design, improving the solution, and then again like releasing in the market. So that is the process we follow, and we'll understand those things in the next sessions. So on the top, what we talked about is the user experience, but how do we deliver that experience? We follow a user experience design process. So that is also called as UXD. Okay, so user experience design is the process of deliberately enticing a person to engage with a device or system. So basically what you're doing is you're creating an engagement that forces the end user to stay and use your product. So basically your product since your product is giving or gives good experience, so what happens because of that is they stick to your product. They don't go to the competitors. They keep taking services from you. Okay, so as a UX designer, your objective is to create right product for them, following the right UX process, and also like you're supposed to engage with the end users from time to time, and also try to take their feedback and engage them and learn from them and then improve the product. So this is the user experience process. And when we talk about great user experience, it's always powered by customer and user centric thinking. So basically you always think from the customer point of view, you always think from the user point of view. Okay, so if there is a need of adding a new feature into the app or the solution, what you do is you just don't sit in the studio and create that feature on your own. No, you're supposed to go out, talk to the user, and figure out and evaluate that is there a real need of that feature, and if yes, if you're able to validate that, then come back and like create the solution, rather than like just creating the features and the solution straight from your mind. You should never do that. You should always engage the end user. So that's why this user experience process is also called as customer and user thinking process. So when we talk about the user experience process, so we understood that it is a digital interaction with two things, that is basically the user and the product. So the user uses the product and then some interaction happens, and because of that the end result is either good experience or bad experience. Since we are focusing on digital products, so we'll be talking about these things. So this is basically what is digital system, what is usability, what is interaction design, and what is in visual design, the importance of these things in the full UX process, and also the importance of the content, because the content also plays an important role in the UX process. So we'll talk about those things also. So this is again an overview of like what are the different fields in user experience process or the industry. So it could be like you could be later on, once you specialize in one of these things, you could like work on only interaction design, or like you could only take care of the human factors or content management, or it could be like related to just branding and visual design, or information architecture, service design, or just the research part. So again, since it's a big process, and again it depends upon the product that you're working on. If the product is very complex, then a lot of people would be involved in that process or in the design. Okay, and when working on those complex projects, you will not be made to like work on each and everything. You will be asked to like work on or work on only small components of the entire process. So it's your you should figure out like what you're very good at. So if you're very good at visual design, then you should like sharpen that skill. You should improve that skill. And if you're very good in doing the research, or if research is something that interests you more, then you should like try to like understand the research more. Try to learn like what are the different methods, how to present the research, and so on. So basically here I should also mention that there are like two kinds of user experience designers. So one is like the generalist, who does everything, who knows how to do the research, who knows how to present the research and do the wireframings, then do the basic prototype, and then also convert the wireframes to the final visual design. So he's basically taking care of each and everything in the UX process. And these kind of people, these kind of designers you can find in startups wherein like there are less people, and one or two designers are made to like work on everything. But if you're working in a company which has got like a big team, might be like 50, 30, 40, it could be like any number. And here what happens, like one person is responsible for only one task. So you might be asked only to do the research, or you might only be asked to do the content. Okay, so these people are called as specialists. But the other person like who does everything from the beginning till the end is the generalist. Okay, initially what happens is like when you start as a designer, you start as a generalist, and you figure out like during the process what you are good at, and then you start specializing in that, and then you become a specialist. So there are a lot of different things that you can focus on, but initially you should understand the complete process, and then you can either go into the visual design or the usability or the research and so on. Okay, and since we are talking about user experience design and all, so we should also know who's Don Norman. So Don Norman is called as the founding father of user experience, and he coined this term in the year 1993. Okay, so he was working at Apple, and during this time he came up with this term user experience. And since then this user experience design, the process has become so popular, like people started using, or basically understood the importance of this process. So that's why like now everybody like uses this process when creating any digital product or any physical product too. Since you're starting, so I would recommend you read this book called as The Design of Everyday Thing. Okay, this is a very interesting book. You will learn basically the importance of the usability and the design in the experience. Try buying this or borrow it from your friend, but read this book. This is a very interesting book, and this will open up or clear your concept of like how design should be made, how solutions or product should be made. Okay, so read this. Yes. So now when we're talking about the experience, this user experience is everywhere, User experience design is a process that is being widely applied to digital technologies. So not just to digital technologies, but apart from that, this process is in use in other sectors also. So this process is also used in industrial designs, like when we're creating designs for the industries like machines and so on. Digital product, yes, we are already aware of this, that UX process is used in when creating or designing digital products. Similarly, software also, and physical products also. So a lot of thinking goes into that, a lot of testing goes into that. Objective of all this thing is basically improving the experience. Okay. And similarly, package design. So why some package designs looks good than the others? So there is a reason, because a lot of thinking goes into that. They also test it with the user. They also test the usability of that packaging, whether that packaging would be right for that particular kind of product or not. So basically, a lot of thinking goes into that. Okay. And similarly, there are a lot of other industries which uses this user experience process. So the scope of this industry is big. So once you understand the process, once you have get a good clarity and understanding of like when and how to use this process, you can start, you can learn more and grow as a UX designer. Because since all the companies are going digital also, so there is a huge demand for these designers. Okay. So the only thing what you need to do is like you need to create your own brand. Okay. So, and you can do that by, like specializing in few things and then separating it from the other. So you can do that too. Okay. So first, let's understand this UX process, and then we'll talk about like how to create the right portfolio so that you get hired, and that portfolio will help you like, get good jobs. This is good till now. So I've been talking about this user experience process, but why should we like care about this user experience and all? Because this is a very important process, because what happens is like once you are able to understand the actual need of the user, then only you will be able to craft the right product. So till the time you don't have a good understanding of what the end user needs, you will never be able to create a good product. So user experience process is very important, and it really helps in improving the overall experience. So how does it do that? So UX is about feelings. It goes beyond HCI and puts emphasis on the human side. So since in the UX process or when creating any product, since you're creating the products for the human beings, so by understanding the human side of the being, so you are able to create good products. So you're emotionally able to connect with the users when you basically listen to them. Okay, because the products are used by the people and their needs to be met, right? So since you're creating these products for the end users, so it's always good to involve the end users in your process. Similarly, people want their questions to be answered and want to be treated with respect. So similarly, UX depends on the context in which the product is used, where the product is used, how the product is used, how many hours the product is used for. Okay, so when you follow this UX process, you are able to understand or get the answers of these questions. So that's why this UX process is very important. And UX D or UX design is a process, which means it's practically scientific, basically something that has worked for a lot of companies, and it has solved the problems of the users. So that's why we should be following this UX process. And people have big expectations, and cross-channel interactions are higher than before. Earlier, what used to happen was like the product was simple. There were less platforms, less devices. So therefore, like people, create products in the studio, in the design studio, and without consulting the end users. But nowadays things have changed. They're like everything is online. Every individual has a global reach, so he can go and discover products from any part of the world, and he can go through the products, read the reviews, and so many thing. And also he doesn't use his products only on one channel. He basically uses products on the mobile device, also on the website or the web or the laptop, and so on. So the expectation is big, and also this cross-channel interaction is happening. So you should be taking care of these things as a UX designer. Okay, and you will be able to understand this by understanding the need, understanding what they are using, which devices they are using, and so on. Okay, and UX also helps in strengthening the brand messaging. Now, when you follow this UX process, what you are able to do is you are able to create that right engagement with the user. And because of that right engagement, right emotional connect, you are able to create a brand loyalty. And because of that, what happens? The user sticks with your product. So it's very important. And great UX increases leads and sales. So every product is made to generate revenue. Okay, so because businesses invest on this kind of product because they want money, they want to generate revenue. And once you're able to satisfy the end users, so since after they're satisfied, they stays with the company and they keep using your product, what happens? The company generates or earns a lot. Okay, they are able to make money. And because of that, what happens? The company grows. And because of now, since the company is growing or grows, they are able to invest more on the product. So it goes two ways. So basically, So the good experience gives money to the business, and because of that, what happens? Business is able to invest more money into the product, and it continues. So lead generation is important, and UX helps in that. And similarly, great UX makes things enjoyable. So everybody likes products which are useful and usable. Okay. So that's why we should be taking care of this UX process. And I think like in the last session we were talking about, like there are some companies or there are startups like who don't who give so much importance to this process. But I think like as a UX designer, it should be your responsibility to follow this process and